Get rid of my vacation? Have fun replacing me. So this all goes back a few years now, and honestly, I posted it as a comment on someone else's thread first, but enough people responded that I figured it deserved its own space. This is really Jimmy's story more than it is mine, but I was there for all of it, and I've got a front row seat view of how the whole thing played out. So the company I worked at, and I was there for about 4 years total, was a family-owned operation, but don't let that make you think it was some small mom-and-pop shop. We ran 3 full shifts, 250 plus people on the floor. The owner had built something real. And one of the things he built into it was a genuinely incredible benefits package. If you put in 25 years or more, you walked away with 8 weeks of vacation every year. 8 weeks? On top of that, you got 2 weeks of personal time. That's 10 weeks a year where you could essentially be anywhere but work, and they were still cutting you a check. Now, enter Jimmy. Jimmy was one of those grizzled old guys who has just seen everything and gives absolutely zero shits about anything that doesn't directly affect him. He started at this company when he was 20 years old. By the time this story takes place, he's 63. Do the math. That's over 40 years at the same place. He had every single one of those vacation weeks stacked up, and he had earned every last one of them. Jimmy also had something else nobody else in that building had. He knew how to make a very specific part for a product, a specialized, patented part. Him and one other person in the office. That was it. 2 people in the entire company who could produce this thing. Jimmy on the floor and one guy upstairs. Now, for years, everything was fine. The owner was getting older, the company was running, Jimmy was doing his thing. Then one day the plant owner comes out and gathers everybody up and makes an announcement. He's selling, he's older, he's ready to retire, he's done it. And to his credit, he stood up there and promised us all that there would be very little change. He said it with sincerity. I think he genuinely believed it. He shook hands, wished everyone well, and that was kind of that. The new corporation showed up almost immediately. And I mean immediately. They did not waste any time making their presence felt. The very first thing they do is go straight at the benefits. They slash the maximum vacation from 8 weeks down to 4. Gone. Just like that. Personal time, completely eliminated. And for anyone who had already maxed out, anyone sitting on more than 4 weeks, they had until December 31st of that year to burn it, because they were not paying it out. They made that very clear. Use it or lose it, and we don't mean that in the friendly way. Then they go into the office and start cleaning house. Anyone who's close to retirement age gets fired. They just started walking people out. And in the process of doing that, they fired Jimmy's backup, the one other person in the entire building who knew how to make that part. Gone. But here's the thing that really matters, the part that set all of this in motion. In all of their restructuring and policy changes, they also did away with one very specific rule that the old company had. Under the old system, you had to get your vacation approved ahead of time. You had to submit it, get a sign-off, plan around production schedules. Makes sense for a manufacturing floor. Under the new policy, you don't have to get anything approved. You can just call in and take the day. They probably thought that would make people happy, throw them a little bone after taking away half their vacation. What they didn't think about was Jimmy. Jimmy was pissed, and they knew it. You could see it, the whole floor could see it. And to their credit, at least the new management wasn't completely oblivious. They realized pretty quickly that they had a serious problem on their hands. Jimmy was now the only living human being in that building who could produce this critical component. So they do what any corporation would do. They hire a new kid and tell Jimmy to train him. The intention was pretty clear. Get the knowledge out of Jimmy's head and into somebody younger and cheaper, and then Jimmy's expendable too. So Jimmy does what anyone in his position would do. On the very first day the new hire shows up for training, Jimmy calls in, doesn't show up, just calls in. And along with that call, he lets them know he's going to be using all of his remaining PTO. Every single bit of it. Back to back. He was sitting on 10 weeks at that point. The 8 vacation weeks plus the 2 personal time weeks that he had to burn before the end of the year. And he was going to use every last one of them consecutively, starting right now. 10 weeks. The company still had a backstock of the parts Jimmy had been making, so the first few weeks weren't catastrophic. Production kept moving. People told themselves it would be fine, that he'd come back, that they'd figure it out. But while all of that was happening, while they were burning through that backstock and waiting, Jimmy was out there doing something extremely productive with his 10 weeks off. He was applying for jobs. He found one, and he started. Fast forward to the day Jimmy is supposed to walk back through those doors. He doesn't show up. They wait. Day 2, still no Jimmy. They start calling him. He doesn't answer. At some point, they actually send someone to his house. He's nowhere to be found. Day 3, finally Jimmy calls in, and he resigns. They lose their minds, and they should, because here's the reality of what they're now sitting with. The parts Jimmy made are specialized. They're patented by the original founder, the guy who just retired. You cannot go on some job board and find someone who knows how to make these. There is no training manual you can just hand to a new hire. The knowledge lived in 2 people. They fired one and just chased off the other one, and now they are stuck. What ended up happening was they had to go back to the original owner. Had to contact the guy who had just sold them the company and retired, explain the situation, and basically ask him to come in and teach a new group of people how to produce these parts from scratch. And when that man found out everything the new company had done, the benefit cuts, the firings, all of it, he was not happy. Not even a little bit. From what I heard, he looked at the situation they'd created and basically said, "You need my help? All right. It'll cost you $1 million, a 7-figure contract, and they had to pay it. What's the alternative? Close down?" Now I want to address something because people asked about this. Jimmy didn't exactly miss out on any kind of 7-figure opportunity himself. He wasn't in a position to offer that kind of contract, and honestly, I don't think he would have wanted to. Jimmy left, said forget these people, and moved on. The $1 million number was the original owner capitalizing on a mess that wasn't of his making. Jimmy got what he actually wanted, which was out. Moral of the whole thing? Don't mess with people's vacation time. Oh, and one more detail people kept asking about. What exactly did Jimmy make? He made an electronic control module, sealed unit, set inside a poured 2-part epoxy housing. Once it's in there, it's in there. You can't just crack one open and reverse engineer it. That's why the knowledge was so locked up in the people who made it, rather than any kind of documentation anybody could just pick up and read. Now, the story doesn't fully end there, and I've had a few updates to share over time, so let me bring you all the way current. It's now 2025, and this post has kept rolling in comments and likes in a way I genuinely did not expect. I had no idea it would take off like it did when I first wrote it up, but here's where things stand. Jimmy is still around. I see him from time to time, especially at the local watering hole, our spot. He's still kicking, still exactly his old self, which is exactly what you'd want to hear. The company we both worked at went through a major restructuring about 2 years ago. Things got better there. Apparently, the employees had gotten fed up enough that there was a real push to bring in a union. They were actively gearing up to vote on it. That kind of thing tends to wake a company up real fast. And somehow, in the middle of all that, Jimmy went back. But not without conditions. Jimmy's not stupid, and he was not walking back in there without getting something for it. Part of his deal for returning, his actual stipulations, were the full reinstatement of all the benefits he'd lost. All of them. And on top of that, he named 2 specific higher-ups that he wanted dealt with. Not just him, either. These were people that multiple employees had raised issues about. 2 weeks after Jimmy started back, both of those people were walked out of the building and told not to come back. I can only imagine the look on Jimmy's face watching that happen. Probably the most satisfied he'd looked in years. As for me, I moved on to bigger and better things after my time there. But their new HR department and talent recruitment team have been reaching out pretty consistently, asking me to come back. I've decided I'll at least sit down with them and hear what they have to say. Maybe I'll ask for extra vacation time while I'm at it. I showed Jimmy this whole post one night when we were out. Sat down next to him at the bar, pulled it up, let him read through the whole thing. His reaction was genuinely one of the funniest moments I've had in a while. He looked up from the screen and said, and keep in mind he was probably 2 beers deep at this point. He goes, "Those fucktards didn't know who they were messing with. They sure as shit know now." Classic Jimmy. I've got family still working at that company, so if anything else comes up that's worth sharing, I'll keep you all posted. I also have a few other Jimmy stories from my time there that I might end up posting when the right threads come up, because honestly, this man's career was full of moments like this one. But yeah, that's the Jimmy story. Don't cut corners on the people who hold the institutional knowledge. Don't fire the only other person who can do a critical job. And for the love of everything, don't touch people's vacation time. Hey, if you made it all the way to the end of this one, genuinely thank you. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the story, a like helps more than you'd think. And drop a comment if you've ever worked with a Jimmy type, or if you've been the Jimmy yourself. And if you're new around here, subscribe so you catch the next one.